my name is Jenny Lauren Dowden for Conduit News. As you know, there's several runoff races happening. Early voting is beginning soon. All of these coming out of the Republican primary election on March 3rd. One of these runoff races is happening in District 52, and joining us today is one of those candidates, Kristain Thompson. Hi, Kristain.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so glad that you joined us on Conduit today.
Hey, me too. I appreciate the invite, and I look forward to talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, you are in a runoff race for District 52. That is, of course, Representative Marcus Richmond's seat.
Hmm.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and just the area that District 52 involves and what made you decide to jump in a house run.
Okay, well, just a little bit about me. Graduated from Dardanelle High School. I actually grew up on a farm on the Pulaski County, Saline County line. It used to be a dairy farm before they did the dairy buyout back in the 80s, and then we just ended
Okay.
up switching just to straight cattle. And so my dad left when I was in the second grade, so my papa is the one who gave me all of my
Hmm.
values. So, looking people in the face, giving them a firm handshake and telling them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And so, I carry those values with me everywhere I go. And so I'm
Hmm.
married. Me and my wife, we've been together for 10 years, been married for 8 of them. I met her at my time at Arkansas Tech, and uh, she is literally the best thing ever, to be honest with you. She's a
That's
great
so
wife.
sweet.
She's a great husband. Number one, she's a great Christian. And
Hmm.
me and her, the one thing that we have, something that really connects us is our way of servant leadership. And
Okay.
that's what we believe in. Money isn't something that motivates us. The stuff that motivates us is being able to help other people. And
Hmm.
that's what really fills our cup. You can spend money on whatever you want to, but at the end of the day, it's only going to make you happy for a short period of time.
Yeah.
And so we make sure that we keep the things that are important important. And that's one of the big reasons we have two beautiful babies. I got a 5-year old. His name's Taylor, and then I got Bradley. She's 3, and she's the personality hire now.
There's
She is the
something about
person,
those second ones.
and she is something else. And
Uh-huh.
and they're hard on me too. My kids are really hard on me.
Yeah.
They could care less that I'm running for state representative.
Children have a really good way of keeping you humble, for sure. I have a 6-year old and
Yes.
a 14-year-old.
And and it's funny because the other day we're kind of laying around, and the little bit of time we get to lay around
Yeah.
nowadays. And I was faking like I was asleep, and Taylor, my son, kept messing with me, and then he grabbed my lips. He thought I was asleep, and he said, "My name's Kristain Thompson, and I'm running for state representative." And me and my wife start crying because you don't, I think he's not listening, when I get up there and talk and
Uh-huh.
stuff, but the kids hear everything. And so
That is
it's really
so cute.
important.
They do.
Yes. And so that's another thing that's really important too is, like what they
Yeah.
see, what they watch, they're watching us and how we conduct ourselves every day.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so that's one thing that is really important to us is, we care about what our kids are seeing. We care about what they're listening to. We care about who they're hanging out with. And, even though they're young, you have to start that stuff while
Yeah.
they're young so that they understand because, you know, I'm tough on my kids because the world's going to be a lot harder on you than I will ever be.
Hmm.
And we can be
Hmm.
friends after you graduate and stuff. But right now, my
Yeah.
job is to make sure that you're going to be somebody who, goes out into society and is someone who is going to be a productive person.
Yeah.
But they're the main reason why I really started running. Somebody had said, "Man, have you ever thought about like running for state representative? You have the political background. I got a political science degree from Arkansas Tech, and after I got out, though, after studying it for 4 years,
Hmm.
you know, it just kind of got to a point where I was just like, I don't like the way that
Yeah.
people are in politics, and but that's not a reason not to be involved. And so
Hmm.
I started over at Arkansas Tech, and I was a staff senate president there for 2 terms. And most people do it for one, but I'm a glutton for punishment, so I did it for 2.
Okay.
And we had 600 employees that brought all their problems to us, 600
Mm,
plus. And,
mm-hmm.
it gave me the opportunity to be able to serve on the budget committee here, which our budget's $170 million budget.
Mm,
And I've learned so much through all of these different
yeah,
processes and committees that I've been on that, serving
yeah,
people and, advocating for them. And there's a right way and a wrong way to advocate. And I'm
yeah,
somebody who believes that you get a lot more done with honey than vinegar and,
yeah,
showing people respect. And that's one
yeah,
thing you get from me. I don't want to be a divisive person at
yeah,
all. I'm a peacemaker. I want to bring people together because we're going to need every single person for us to make this state the best that it can be. And what do you have?
yeah. Well, that's interesting that you say that. And I want to talk to you about just your district and the voters there and what you're hearing. But since you brought this up right now, you're right. I think that it will take everyone, and politics can be so divisive.
Hmm.
I've heard from so many people, and I want to know if this is true in your area, that this has been one of the worst Republican primary seasons that they can
Hmm.
recall, just with the text messages and the mailers and the divisiveness, Republican against Republican. And a lot of mailers that we've seen, especially in some of those Senate races, were just
Hmm.
lies. And, voters see through that. And, you got a tough runoff where you are, and some
Hmm.
similar tactics are being used. So, what do you tell voters there?
I tell them, the people who know me, they know my heart and they know exactly what they're going to get from me.
Hmm.
So I don't try to listen to the noise. And I'm somebody who I don't want to address anything. I'm someone who, I don't address rumors. And, in that video, I attested to that.
Hmm.
And, I didn't make that video because of any, negative thing. I just believe that if I'm going to sit there and tell my kids that they need to take up for themselves and take up for others, then what would I have looked like for not addressing something that I had clear proof to? And
Yeah.
it's just people have lives and people have kids and they have family. And what
Yeah.
people don't realize is this race ain't that important.
Mm.
And we're in a battle for Arkansas' soul right now. And, people don't realize it, but people are really starting to open their eyes. And I think that people, we're supposed to work for you. The government's supposed to
Hmm.
work for you, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And, the more we have open conversations and, the more we are able to bring in the way that the dark money is spent, we need to be
Hmm.
able to track that stuff,
Yeah.
because when random money's coming in from out of state or wherever it's coming from, we need to be able to solidify the source.
Yeah.
Um, and,
I noticed
I've heard a
that
lot of
on your,
people.
yeah, I noticed that on your financial report, you haven't received any PAC money whatsoever. Was that a deliberate choice, or, and your opponent has? So how did that shake out?
Well,
No PAC money at all.
yeah. So at the beginning of this, like I said, I went to school for politics. I've written 15, 20-page papers over big money in politics and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm somebody who, do I think that doesn't mean I'm never going to have a conversation with, the PACs or the lobbyists or
Yeah.
anything like that. I need their information. My
Yeah.
only rule of thumb is, hey, don't manipulate the truth, don't leave anything out, and just be honest with me because I want
Hmm.
them to know that I'll be consistent. But I can't take somebody's money if I can't sit and have a meeting with you and be able
Hmm.
to look you in your eyes and make sure that, you know, what I believe in is something that you're going to be okay with. And that's the
Yeah.
conversation that I've had with the individuals that have given me money too. But the
Mm.
people who have given me money are people who have known me for a long time and believe in me. And it's not because of, I'm a conservative Republican, but these people don't care about that. They know me and they know my heart and they know that
Hmm.
I'm going to fight for our people,
Yeah.
and I don't want, and I'm a team player and all that stuff. But really good teams hold each other accountable,
Yeah.
and
When
that's
it,
something that's really important.
yeah, as you're so I guess you said that you grew up in that area, around that area, so you've known people there for a long time.
Hmm.
Um as you've been campaigning, and you're talking to voters, to them, what do they see as being the most important issue? And what would they, well, then they'll say, okay, Christian, when you get in office, we really want you to work on this, or can you do something about this? What do you hear from voters there?
It's hard to live. It
Hmm.
is simply hard to live. We can talk about education, and we can talk about the senior citizen centers, and you know, and just our seniors in general. They're
Hmm.
having to make decisions that, am I going to get my medicine from the pharmacy, or am I going to eat, or am I going to get gas put in my car? And
Yeah.
I'm someone who believes that, and people don't see that. Like, and you leave with tears in your eyes, because how do we help those people? You
Yeah.
know, and those are the types of problems that I want to solve, are the ones that are actually going to move the needle for the everyday Arkansan. Heck, me and my wife, we have a budget. Like, we
Yeah.
don't just spend frivolously or anything like that. We're somebody who, we know what we can spend, we know what we can't spend.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that, you get from me. I'm living just like everybody else. You can go and look up my salary on the open checkbook right over there. I'm not made of
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I think that it's important for somebody to represent you that truly understands what you're going through.
Yeah.
Because oh, we have our daycare bills, and we have two children, we have our house payment, our interest rate wasn't great. So, I
Yeah.
mean, interest rates are high right now. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and we had bought a
Um,
house.
yeah, well,
I'm
what
bad at
what issues would you say? So, of course, and that's really we've heard that a lot. So when we've
hmm
asked really candidates from all across the state, what are you hearing from voters? One of the very number one things is affordability, living,
hmm
that sort of thing. And so, what would your priorities be? Do you have, I know that on your website you talk about agri and rural infrastructure policies. You also
hmm
talk about the workforce development regarding trade programs. What policies or initiatives are really important to you that you would want to tackle down in Little Rock?
So the farmers, I live on a farm now. I've had a lot of conversations with the farmers. My papa, he was a man's man, and you know, that's who I see every time I see farmers. I see my
Mm,
grandfather, and I'm never going to turn my back on the farmers. And so I want to work with, Farm Bureau. I want to work with them, because one thing that I do is I seek out experts. I'm not going to tell a farmer how to farm, because I'm not a farmer. I'm not going to tell them that, this is what you need, or this is, that's not my
hmm.
job. I'm here to represent y'all. But we need to
Yeah.
have an open line of communication, to where, hey, you call me and you tell me what's going on, and we can go and we can take that down to Little Rock. But
Yeah.
I'm really big on talking to experts. And so what Farm Bureau explains to me, gives me the information that I need, that's where we proceed. Because any legislation that we pass, of who it's going to affect, we need to make sure that we're having conversations with those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And oh,
Yeah, you can look at that. A most recent discussion or an example of that would be, and I'm not sure if you're following it, is this industrial development authorities
mhm.
that are trying to get passed through. I know Washington and Madison counties both turned it down indefinitely. Benton County passed the IDA ordinance, but I think they're going to try to go back and rework it. And I can remember during the legislative session that bill ran, and it really didn't receive much pushback at all. Conduit warned people about it, and Conduit opposed it.
Mhm.
But that would have been a really good example of, you know what, go to these counties and go to the quorum courts and talk to people in the community and see if they actually want this. Because, a lot of times it's just it's not done.
Yes. And that's how we're supposed to be, an extension of the people.
Hmm.
And so by us doing that, I believe that I'm going to be someone who's in my district all the time. Me and my wife already told her, I said, we're going to have a schedule to make sure that we're constantly seeing people. Because
Yeah.
how am I going to be able to represent your problems if I'm not going to be sitting with you at your table, or,
Yeah.
seeing you out? And I want people to think that there's five of me, because he's
He's
always someone.
everywhere.
Because it's that important. Because,
Yeah.
if you haven't met me, you know, you don't know certain stuff about me until you meet me.
Sure.
And, when you meet me, you can see my heart and you see where I'm coming from. And I'm not here for nothing else but to help educate our people and tell them, hey, this is how we're going to get better. And it all starts with voters. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
starts with, our
Yeah.
low
So
voter
when,
turnout.
yeah,
Um,
when low voter turnout, whenever you say, to get better, to help Arkansas get better and that sort of thing. So when you look
mhm.
at the state of politics down in Little Rock, what do you see as needing to get better?
I think like transparency is something that is really important. And, since COVID, people don't really trust the government like they
Hmm.
used to.
Yeah.
And bringing that trust back is going to be boots on the ground, old school grassroots, showing people that you can trust us. And
Hmm.
that's what I've done this whole time during I knocked on over 2,000 doors by myself.
Wow.
And these
Wow.
boots I got on right now, I knew that I had an uphill climb when this
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
But also, there's a lot of people who didn't know my work ethic. I'm not somebody who
Yeah.
goes around and beats my chest and pats myself on the back. I just work in silence. That's one
Uh-huh.
thing that I do. If I took a picture of every time I was doing something, people would get tired of seeing me on Facebook all the time. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm somebody who believes that, everything doesn't have to be publicized. I don't put
Mm.
myself in places where I don't need to be. I don't
Hmm.
join, if there's an open board seat or something somewhere, I don't jump on the board just to jump on a board. If I think that I can
Sure.
be someone who can, really contribute and help it get better,
Yeah.
then I'm all
Um,
about that.
yeah. So, as I mentioned, this runoff race, early voting is the 24th through the
Yes, ma'am.
30th, and then the
Hmm.
election day for the runoff is the 31st. Um, I think you probably agree that with runoff races, it's you never know because
You
there
never
was a
know.
there was a race here in Washington County, a runoff. The person in first place, probably had about 1,400 votes over the person in second. The runoff, it completely flipped, and the person in
Hmm.
second won by 18 votes. And
Hmm.
so it's almost like it just comes down to what candidate can get their people out to the polls. And
Hmm.
so when you're talking to people and they're undecided, or maybe they voted for Mike Jones, who was
Hmm.
initially in that race, who he has endorsed you, how do you contrast yourself from your opponent?
You, with me, you're getting a family member. That's what you're getting. You're gonna get somebody who will come and sit with you in your house. Yesterday we're at a assisted living facility. I'm sitting there giving the old ladies hugs, and but that's just where
Yeah,
I can't help it.
yeah,
I'm just somebody who
yeah.
it's just
Are there
it's
are there policy issues that you've noticed that there's a difference between you and your opponent? Have you noticed anything like that? Like when, I mean, I'm sure people can then say, you know what, Christian is so kind. He's such a good,
hmm
honest, hardworking person. But then policy wise, here's why
hmm
I'm voting for him over his opponent. What would that be?
I'm somebody who believes in accountability in all levels. And when it comes to conservative values, I think that sometimes people are conservative when it's convenient and not when we need to be conservative. And
Hmm.
so, we talk about, how taxpayer dollars are spent. Just because we have an agenda of something that we want to do doesn't mean that we need to throw a ton of money at it.
Hmm.
I'm somebody who believes that, hey, like, hey guys, look, we really do want to do good stuff, don't get me wrong, but sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. And so when it comes to, policy issues, we see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. There's just a point of I can see where, like we talk about spending, if we talk about the prison, do we need a new prison? We sure do. Now, at the same time, we have to be fiscally responsible on how we are going to build this prison.
Mhm.
And just because we need a prison doesn't mean that we need to throw all of this money at it, because
Yeah.
it's the affordability for it and the tax dollars, is over exceeding what the original budget was by
Yeah.
potentially three times. And
Yeah.
are our county jails overran? Yes. We have people in our county jails that don't need to be in our county jails, which
Hmm.
then goes to people who are supposed to be in the county jails that don't have room, that they go
Yeah.
back out onto the street.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to see a plan where, we have a mega prison plan at the original budget. I would love to see where maybe we do multiple regional facilities. If that's our problem and we're talking about travel time for the
Hmm.
people transporting, and because that's how we have to look at it. We have to look at it from every single level. And I just like options, and the community has to be behind it. I'm really big on, I don't want to tell you how to live your life. I don't want to
Hmm.
force anything on somebody who doesn't want it, especially when we have people who do.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really important that I don't mind saying, guys, like, look, we're getting away from our true Republican values with some of
Hmm.
the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important, that you have those voices. And that doesn't mean that I'm not a team player, by no means. But once again, we
Sure.
go back to what I said earlier. Great teams hold each other accountable, because we can't be split as a party, because then that's when liberals will come in and start poking holes in what we're trying to do, in the way that everything's been going around the country on these special elections, and we're seeing seats flip that have been red for 20
Hmm.
years. That
Yeah.
bothers me, and
Yeah.
that
We may see some
concerns
of
me.
that this fall. I totally hear you about I hear you about that. The problem is, a lot of times Republicans don't want to be criticized at all. And they especially don't think they should be criticized or held accountable by other Republicans. And so, that's just an interesting dynamic because, you know, people do have that viewpoint, like, well, we need to stay unified and we need to do X, Y, and Z to make sure, these other things don't happen. But at the same
Hmm.
time, you don't stay unified at the expense of, you know, calling things out. Like, we can't just have everyone go along to get along just because,
Hmm.
they don't want Democrats in office. Like, you've still got to be able to hold your peers accountable. And
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but they don't like that down in Little Rock, because from what I see. So
Well, I just think that
maybe
we have a
that'll change.
responsibility. I just think that we have a
Yeah.
responsibility to everybody, because I'll tell you
Yeah.
this, the main reason I love my wife is because she holds me accountable,
Hmm. Yeah.
and y- people, you need accountability. And when you think
Yeah.
that you don't, that's a dangerous place to be, because then you have an invincibility feeling. And I
Yeah.
always tell everybody, when you have an invincibility feeling, that's when your pride starts coming out, and you
Hmm.
think that people just owe you just because you're you. And
Yeah.
I just don't, I've never operated in that way.
Yeah. I get
And
it.
all of
Yeah.
my friends, they are the hardest people on me ever. They
Yeah.
don't, and they can care less that I'm running for state representative.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Well,
have a
scripture
group of,
talks about it. Iron sharpens iron, and that's a
yes,
good thing. It's a good thing. Well, as I mentioned, March 24th, so
yes, ma'am.
Tuesday through Monday the 30th, and then election day is the 31st. How can people get in touch with you or find out more about you before we let you go?
Guys, y'all can go straight to my Facebook page. If you want to message me there, you can message me there. If you want to call, just message me and I'll send you my phone number. My phone number is also on my page too. Guys, I'm the most approachable person you may ever meet. I I'm here for y'all. My agenda is whatever y'all's agenda is. But we have to vote, and it's not just in this
Mhm.
runoff. We have to vote. Our voter count has to go up. If we want to see things happen for us, we have to show people that we want things to happen for us. And it all comes through voting. And so that's what I want to do after this election. There's not a Democrat running. So what I
Mm.
want to do is I want to go door to door again, go to those people who are registered that don't vote, and also go to the people who are not registered and tell them, hey,
Mhm.
if you love your
Mhm.
kids, if you love your grandkids, you want to see your town do better, you have to go and vote. And I don't
Yeah.
want you to vote for me. Like you're not going to vote for me in November. I need you to
Yeah.
go and vote because then that's what everybody looks at is voter numbers. And
Yeah.
that's where you see resources and stuff go to the places that have voter numbers. And
Mm.
that is just the name of the game. And I tell people that that's how we get ourselves better.
Yeah.
And I'm somebody who we have to bring up, we have to, you say it, we have to bring value to ourselves because I'm somebody who I don't believe that somebody's going to come and save us. And, when it comes to our infrastructure and things like that with I-49, that starting to, we had a meeting in Waldron the other day. Um, we need to make sure we're going to be ready for that in the
Mhm.
district.
Yeah.
And, oh, we have infrastructure issues and things like that that we need to get figured out before because this is a big opportunity that we can use and we need to make sure that we're ready to have the opportunity though.
Yeah. Well, Christian, it's been so nice talking with you. Really appreciate you joining Conduit, and we wish you all the best in the runoff there in District 52.
Thank you.